Thank you. The Department proposes to make significant investment in the research and production of stable isotopes in fiscal 2020. Isotopes, both radioisotopes and stable isotopes for medical or industrial applications, are one area where the Department of Energy, Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and other national labs have had an incredible impact, including lives saved and billion-dollar impacts on the U.S. economy. I discussed this with Secretary Perry last week, but I'm interested in your perspective as well, Mr. Secretary. I'll ask 4 questions. Why is the Department investing in stable isotopes now? Does the United States have any capacity to produce these isotopes currently, and if so, where? How will the proposed stable isotope production and research center help address the growing demand for stable isotopes and facilitate research on the beneficial use of stable isotopes? And lastly, sir, the Basic Energy Science Advisory Committee, or BSAC, was recently charged by the Department to provide input on the long-term strategy concerning HIFER, the high-flux isotope reactor at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, which is among the highest flux reactor-based neutron sources in the world. How critical is HIFER to the future of isotope production? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Congressman. So, as Congressman Simpson mentioned about budgets and about priorities and taking aside quantums of dollars, that actually in the Office of Science, we have actually 6 areas that were increases or new line items, and I think those are signals. One of them is in isotope production, where we're actually requesting an increase for that. And then let me talk through that because it addresses your questions. Clearly, the Department is the leader in the production of isotopes in the country. It comes from a history of the nuclear program and obviously the history of the national labs. And the Department runs a very well-honed, almost business in isotope production. It is done for a mixture of decaying isotopes that are mostly medical, although certainly supportive of the oil and gas industry and log wells and so on, and also stable isotopes. To talk about the decaying isotopes, mostly for the medical community, our headquarters for that is at Oak Ridge National Lab. But what's actually really important is that we actually have started a process that has been going on for a while, but really enhancing it across all the universities in the country with all the research reactors and accelerators that are at hospitals, and how to coordinate to figure out some 40-odd isotopes that we produce at the DOE and the 20 or so that we have under research in large part for the medical community. Ohio is actually, because of the medical focus of Ohio and such the great universities and the medical institutions in Ohio, is actually a strong part of our partnership is across Ohio, is how can we produce some of it at HIFER at Oak Ridge? How can we produce some of it at the research reactor at the University of Missouri? How can some of it be produced at accelerators at specific university hospitals in Ohio and elsewhere? And so we actually provide the leadership across all these different institutions, and we actually meet with the medical community and try to figure out which isotopes should we increase production on and why, based on demand pull of the medical community. And we meet with doctors across this country as they try to convince us that for the next trials, for the next cancer to go after, about which isotopes to try to basically convince us for us to put our R&D into, or to put our dollars in that you give us, to try to help with the next set of trials. It is a very exciting part that many people don't realize the DOE does. It's a very important part of the medical community. Why should we do it? I've sat before the House here before with medical doctors who talk about isotopes that they couldn't get in the past. We took that very seriously as we listened to members of Congress about that. And we actually came up with a plan, and it's not a lot of dollars, but how do we increase some of the production capabilities in order to address some of those lacking availability for the medical community. And what you're seeing in our budget is a focus on that particular priority. I think it's important for the country. The second part that you talked about was about stable isotopes, which is actually different than the medical side. There's obviously many different aspects of stable isotopes, including for our DOD and other friends that are in a bit more of a confidential topic. We identify from our various demand polls, including from the confidential side, of what's important for stable isotopes. It's a lot of the same capabilities that we do for isotopes that are radioactive and that decay, and we do a very similar analysis. Clearly, a leader in that is Oak Ridge, but there are others who deal with that across the complex.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and I want to thank you all for this great hearing. And Madam Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you very much. Following up